I'm settling into my favorite reading chair this morning, coffee in hand. And I can't help but notice how completely different the light feels now compared to just a few weeks ago. The maple tree outside the living room window has filled in so completely that instead of that bright, direct morning sun we had in spring, everything is filtered through these beautiful green leaves. It creates this wonderful dappled pattern that shifts and moves across the wall, like nature's own gentle light show. You know how some mornings just invite you to sit quietly and really notice what's happening around you? This is definitely one of those mornings. The temperature is absolutely perfect, warm enough that I've got the windows open, but still cool enough that the breeze feels refreshing rather than necessary. Muffin has claimed her usual spot on the ottoman, positioned exactly where she can supervise both me and whatever might be happening outside, because that's what cats do. I was just thinking about how this kind of lighting would probably fascinate Michelle from work. She's got this incredible eye for noticing how light affects mood and atmosphere, which has been such a gift in her whole photography wellness program that she's been developing at the office. I should probably mention that Michelle has this amazing ability to see beauty and potential in the most ordinary moments, like this gentle morning light filtering through leaves. Her photography program has really been taking off now that we've hit this perfect early summer weather. She's been organizing these lunch hour photography walks, and apparently they've become quite popular with people from different departments. Michelle was telling me just last week that she's been amazed by how many colleagues have discovered they actually enjoy taking photos when there's no pressure to be artistic or professional about it. The whole thing started as part of her bigger workplace wellness initiative, which honestly seemed a bit ambitious when she first proposed it. But Michelle being Michelle, she did all this research about how photography can be a form of mindfulness practice, and how having creative outlets at work can actually improve both job satisfaction and productivity. She created this comprehensive presentation that apparently impressed management enough to give her a trial period. What I find most interesting about Michelle's approach is how she makes photography accessible to people who would never consider themselves creative types. She's got this way of explaining that you don't need expensive equipment or years of training to notice interesting light or capture a moment that feels meaningful. During these lunch walks, people use their phones or basic cameras that the company provides, and the focus is more on paying attention to their surroundings than on creating perfect images. She was describing to me how different people gravitate toward different subjects during these walks. Some folks are drawn to architectural details around the neighborhood. Others find themselves photographing shadows and reflections. And apparently, there's one guy from accounting who has become completely fascinated by photographing different textures in nature. Michelle says watching people discover their own visual interests is one of the most rewarding parts of the whole program. The timing of all this couldn't be better, really. Early summer provides such perfect conditions for outdoor photography sessions. The light stays good for longer periods during the day. The weather is comfortable for walking around, and everything is lush and green without being overwhelmingly hot yet. Michelle mentioned that she's been able to extend some of the walks because people don't want to head back inside when they're just starting to get into that focused, observational mindset. But it's not just about the photography itself. Michelle has been documenting how these creative breaks seem to improve workplace relationships and communication. When people from different departments spend time together looking for interesting subjects to photograph, they end up having conversations they never would have had sitting in their usual workspaces. She's observed that some of the collaboration and problem solving that happens during these relaxed creative sessions carries over into regular work projects. I think what Michelle has figured out is something that a lot of workplaces miss, which is that creativity isn't separate from productivity. When people have opportunities to use their minds in different ways, to pay attention to beauty, and to express themselves, they actually bring more energy and innovation back to their regular responsibilities. The photography program has become this unexpected bridge between personal fulfillment and professional effectiveness. You know, thinking about Michelle's gift for creating these opportunities for people to notice and appreciate their environment reminds me of Janet and her incredible talent for creating systems that help families actually enjoy their daily routines instead of just surviving them. Janet has this wonderful way of organizing life so that there's space and time to appreciate the good moments instead of rushing past them. I was thinking about Janet specifically because this is the time of year when her family meal planning system really shines. Summer brings all these fresh ingredients and opportunities for outdoor eating. And Janet has apparently figured out how to incorporate seasonal variety into her planning without losing the efficiency that makes everything work so smoothly for her family. She was telling me recently about how Tom has become completely converted to the meal planning approach. Tom, who initially grumbled about having to think about dinner more than 5 minutes before eating it, now apparently times the cooking processes with what Janet laughingly describes as military precision. He's gotten so invested in the system that he started suggesting improvements and modifications, which Janet finds both helpful and slightly amusing. But what's really on Janet's mind these days is this digital detox vacation she's been planning for the family. She's found this cabin that's deliberately off the grid, no cell service and no Wi-Fi. And she's convinced that a week of complete disconnection from technology will be exactly what her family needs. The challenge, of course, is convincing everyone else that this is a good idea rather than a form of punishment. Rachel, who's heading into her senior year of high school, is understandably concerned about being completely cut off from her social connections for an entire week. And Tom, despite his newfound appreciation for meal planning, is having some anxiety about being unable to check work email or respond to any business emergencies. But Janet, with her typical thoroughness, has been addressing each concern with careful preparation and compromise. She's been gradually reducing screen time for the whole family in the weeks leading up to the trip, introducing more analog activities and alternatives to digital entertainment. Janet being Janet, she's approached this like a military operation, with backup plans and contingency strategies for keeping everyone engaged and happy without their usual electronic distractions. What I admire about Janet's approach is how she's thinking about this vacation not as deprivation, but as an opportunity for the family to rediscover activities and connections they've been too busy or distracted to enjoy. She's planning hiking and fishing, board games and card tournaments, cooking projects that everyone can participate in, and what she calls conversation starters to encourage more meaningful family discussions. The timing is particularly significant because Rachel really is entering her final year of high school, which means this might be one of their last opportunities for this kind of extended family time before she heads off to college. Janet is very aware that these moments of having everyone together and fully present are becoming more precious and less frequent as the kids get older and more independent. I can tell that Janet is putting a lot of thought into making sure this experience feels special rather than restrictive. She's been researching the area around the cabin, finding local attractions and activities that might appeal to different family members, and even coordinating with the cabin owners to understand what resources and entertainment options are available on the property. Her college preparation work with Rachel has been intensifying too, as you might expect with senior year approaching. Janet has created these incredibly detailed timelines for application deadlines, scholarship submissions, and all the various requirements that need to be coordinated. But what's interesting is how she's managing to support Rachel's process without taking over completely, which seems like exactly the right balance for a young person who needs to develop independence while still having reliable guidance. Janet mentioned that one of the most challenging aspects of the college preparation isn't the organizational complexity, though that's certainly demanding, but rather the emotional work of helping Rachel think through what she really wants from her college experience. It's not just about getting into schools, but about Rachel developing a clearer sense of her own interests and goals so she can make good decisions about where she wants to spend the next 4 years. The whole situation with Rachel growing up and preparing to leave home connects to something David mentioned recently about how writing his novel has made him think differently about family relationships and the ways people navigate major life transitions. David's book is exploring some of these themes around family expectations and individual identity. And he's been finding that the creative process gives him insights into his own family dynamics as well. David's novel writing has been progressing really steadily through these summer months, which seems to work well with his natural rhythms and the longer daylight hours. He's been doing most of his writing in the early mornings before work, and apparently the summer light makes those early sessions feel less like a sacrifice and more like a peaceful way to ease into each day. His relationship with Emma has been developing in this lovely, gradual way that seems to suit both of their personalities. Emma's background as a teacher gives her a natural understanding of David's need for concentrated work time, and her travel experiences provide inspiration and perspectives that actually enhance his writing rather than competing with it for attention. What's particularly sweet is how Emma has started attending some of the bookstore events that David coordinates, not because she feels obligated, but because she's genuinely interested in the literary community he's helped build. She's been bringing her teacher's insights to book discussions, and apparently her questions and observations have enriched the conversations in ways that benefit everyone who participates. David's book club has been thriving during these summer months, partly because the good weather allows for outdoor meetings and more flexible gathering spaces. He mentioned that they recently had a discussion session in the park near the bookstore, which created this relaxed atmosphere that encouraged more personal sharing and deeper engagement with the books they've been reading. The book selection process for summer reading has been interesting too. David says the group has been gravitating toward stories that deal with community building and personal growth, which seems to reflect where people are in their own lives during this season of longer days and more social connection. There's something about summer that makes people more open to stories about transformation and possibility. His work at the bookstore continues to provide this perfect balance between his day job responsibilities and his writing aspirations. David gets to interact with authors and publishers, learn about the business side of writing, and stay current with what's being published, all while earning a steady income and building professional relationships that might benefit his own publishing goals eventually. The customer recommendations part of his job has become almost like a form of creative practice in itself. David has developed this intuitive ability to match readers with books they didn't know they wanted, which requires understanding both the books and the people in ways that actually complement his character development skills as a novelist. I think what David has figured out is how to integrate his various interests and responsibilities so they support each other rather than competing for his time and energy. His relationship with Emma enhances his understanding of teaching and communication. His bookstore work deepens his knowledge of the publishing world. His writing improves his ability to understand character and motivation. And his book club provides community and feedback for all of these activities. The collaborative novel writing workshop he mentioned sounds particularly exciting. David and several other local writers have been meeting monthly to share chapters and provide feedback, which has created this supportive environment for pushing each other to take creative risks and maintain momentum on longer projects. Emma has been wonderfully encouraging about David's writing schedule and creative goals, but she's also brought her own perspectives about work-life balance and the importance of maintaining other relationships and interests. Her teaching experience has given her insights into how people learn and grow, which has actually helped David think about his character's development arcs in more realistic and nuanced ways. Speaking of creative projects, I should mention that Elena is probably deep in cake testing mode right about now, since her sister's wedding is getting closer, and the pressure to perfect that lavender honey cake is intensifying. This warm weather presents both opportunities and challenges for Elena's baking experiments, since she needs to account for how heat and humidity will affect both the cake preparation and the outdoor wedding reception. Elena being Elena, she's probably turned this challenge into an opportunity to learn even more about the science of baking. She's the type of person who would research optimal ingredient temperatures and timing adjustments for warm weather baking, then test multiple variations until she's confident she can deliver something absolutely beautiful and delicious regardless of the conditions on the actual wedding day. I have such admiration for Elena's willingness to take on this enormous responsibility for her sister's wedding, especially when you consider that she's never made anything quite this ambitious before. But that's Elena, approaching this challenge with the same combination of thorough research, careful practice, and generous spirit that she brings to everything she cares about. Marcus is probably taking advantage of this perfect weather to work on the exterior aspects of his truck restoration project. Summer provides ideal conditions for paint work and body repair, since he can work outdoors without worrying about temperature control or ventilation issues. This is the season when restoration projects like his really advance, when all the indoor winter preparation work gets translated into visible transformation. I imagine Marcus is enjoying the community aspect of working on automotive projects during good weather, when neighbors and friends can stop by to observe the progress and maybe learn something about the restoration process. His combination of technical knowledge and teaching patience makes him such a valuable resource for anyone interested in learning practical mechanical skills. Mrs. Chen's garden must be absolutely spectacular right now. In this perfect growing weather with just enough rain and plenty of sunshine, her roses are probably hitting their absolute peak, creating that amazing fragrance that drifts over into my yard when the wind is just right. There's something so peaceful about having neighbors whose gardens provide these seasonal gifts of beauty and scent. I keep thinking I should ask Mrs. Chen about her gardening secrets, but somehow the right moment never presents itself. She has this quality of being friendly and approachable while also maintaining a certain privacy that I respect. Maybe someday, when I'm working in my herb garden and she's tending her roses, we'll have one of those natural conversations that happen between neighbors who appreciate each other's efforts without needing to become close friends. You know, sitting here in this perfect light, thinking about all these people in my life and their various summer projects and rhythms, I'm struck by how much I appreciate this season of growth and activity and longer days. There's something about early summer that brings out people's ambitions and creativity, when the good weather makes everything seem more possible and energy levels naturally increase. Each of my friends seems to be hitting their stride in different ways right now. Michelle's photography program is thriving in the ideal outdoor conditions. Janet's family systems are humming along efficiently, while she plans their technology-free adventure. David's writing and relationship are both developing beautifully, and Elena's baking skills are being challenged and expanded by her sister's wedding project. Even Benny seems to have adjusted his security patrol schedule to take advantage of the longer daylight hours and more comfortable temperatures. He's been doing his yard inspection rounds earlier in the morning and later in the evening, when the heat isn't quite so intense, but there's still plenty of good patrol time available. And Muffin, well, Muffin has simply shifted her supervisory operations to take advantage of the various sunny spots that move through the house at different times of day. She's become an expert in seasonal comfort optimization, which is really quite impressive to observe. Right now, she's positioned herself on the ottoman in a way that captures both the filtered morning light and allows her to monitor any interesting outdoor activity. I think what I love most about this time of year is how it demonstrates that finding contentment doesn't require dramatic changes or extraordinary experiences. Sometimes it's just about appreciating the perfect temperature on a Wednesday morning. The way dappled light makes everything look more beautiful, and the knowledge that people you care about are pursuing projects and relationships that bring them joy and growth. The peaceful rhythm of these summer mornings, with the windows open and the sound of birds and distant lawn mowers creating this gentle soundtrack to daily life, reminds me why I value this quiet, settled existence I've created. There's room in this life for deep friendships, creative projects, seasonal changes, and the simple pleasure of sitting in a comfortable chair with good coffee while the world wakes up around me. Muffin just opened one eye to check on my continued presence, and then settled back into her perfect loaf position, clearly satisfied that everything is proceeding according to plan. Benny will probably make an appearance soon for his mid-morning check-in, wanting to verify that I'm properly appreciating this beautiful day, and perhaps hoping for a second breakfast consultation. These are the moments that remind me how much richness can be found in ordinary days when you have good friends pursuing interesting projects, pets who take their household responsibilities seriously, and a comfortable chair positioned perfectly to catch the changing light through a maple tree that knows exactly how to frame a summer morning.